Hi everyone, welcome back to day two of inner child healing. This is something I recently heard that wherever we go, we meet our inner child. So just imagine how profound this work is. Because if whatever we do, wherever, whenever, right, is leading to us meeting our inner child, this means that this work is so important for your growth, for your nourishment, and for your fulfillment. That when we actually heal those aspects of us, our unhealed inner children, we actually begin to thrive in our lives. Okay, and who doesn't want to thrive, right? So every today we're going to go a little deeper into how we can recognize certain emotions and if those emotions are coming from our inner child. Okay, and then we're going to do a short exercise that will help us recognize those emotions and then also work on it. Okay, so yesterday we met our inner child, right? And today we'll recognize how our inner child is speaking, what, and when it speaks through emotions, right, and behaviors, because sometimes their voice can just be a subtle signal. So it might not be like there is a conversation going on between you and the inner child, but the way you're reacting, the way your circumstances, you are reacting to circumstances in your life, that's what tells you what your inner child is trying to communicate to you, right? So now, what are the ways in which your inner child communicates with you? Okay, one is an emotional trigger, and this is something I mentioned yesterday as well. Whenever you have sudden anger, yeah, sudden outbursts of an emotion, say sadness or fear, or you feel like not disappro. There is a disproportionate amount of emotion. For example, you somebody does something, and instead of just saying that you don't appreciate it, or they could have done it differently, you start screaming, you start howling, you start literally hurling abuses. So why is that happening? It could have been, yes, it is something that was not appropriate. So you could have given a reaction or an the way your action could basically be 10x of it, but it was 100x, right? So that means that there is an inner child that has felt this before, and that inner child is really hurt and is trying to express that met need. Okay, so that's one. The second is relationship pattern. So when you have repeated conflicts, right, when there is a fear of abandonment in a relationship, when clearly everything is working out and you're constantly in the fear of abandonment, or when you're very very clingy, right? So people are available, people are giving their best. However, you don't ever feel fulfilled and you want to hold on to everything, right? Then it also communicates in the form of perfectionism and self criticism. It's like the coin with two faces, okay? Same coin. Yeah. So every time you're trying to overcompensate, or you're feeling utterly unworthy, you are achieving everything, whatever it is, yet you're feeling unworthy. Yeah. Because maybe your father, maybe your mother did not appreciate you. They said, why are you, fifth? Why aren't you first? And now the parents are long gone. Even if that happens, that parent is still inside, right? And that parent is still being critical. Yeah. And the fourth form is avoidance. Okay. So every time you're running away from joy, intimacy, or success because of old wounds, that's how you recognize the signs of how your inner child is communicating. Of course, we're going to work more extensively on why this is happening, how this is happening. But for now, these are the four ways in which your inner child is trying to communicate with you, right? So when you notice them, yeah, you can consciously respond instead of reacting. Then it'll become a conscious response. Okay. So now let's do a little practice to understand how we can recognize this communication with our inner child. Okay. So sit comfortably, close your eyes, and take a deep breath. Think about a recent situation where you overreacted or you felt intense emotion. Okay. Go back in memory. It could be your parents, it could be your friend, your spouse, your child, Okay. And now ask, could this reaction be my inner child responding? And another thing where you might not be able to figure out that, oh my God, I don't know if this was not proportionate, this reaction. If you've been linked, if something happened and you're still thinking about it 4 days later, 1 month later, a year later, that means that that is definitely not proportionate. Okay. So think of those times where you've really spent way too much time on a reaction, on something that somebody said or somebody reacted in a way that really hurt you and you're still hurt after years, after days, after months. So then that means that's unproportionate behavior, right? That kind of a obsession with feeling hurt. Yeah. So now that you've seen, now that you've thought about that, think about whether or not your inner child must be responding in a certain way to this reaction. Okay. And even if you don't get an answer, I just want you to now visualize your younger self, any age that your mind goes to. Okay, don't think rationally. It could be 5, it could be like your baby version, it could be 12, it could be 16. And as I say, try and keep it below 10 as much as possible. Just visualize and visualize your youngest self stepping into that moment now. So suppose you had a very bad conversation which was absolutely blown out of proportion with your boss. Okay, so right there when you're having that conversation, insert this inner child of yours, your younger version, there in that moment. And now look at that inner child, okay? Look at that younger version of yourself while this pat is happening. Look at the inner child from a third person lens. So imagine you are kind of up there, like, and you're looking at through a camera on this, the camera is on this younger self, okay? And now see how the inner child, the younger version of you, is feeling. Just observe. And when I'm saying all of these things, this is whatever comes to mind. Okay, don't think twice, thrice. You don't have to keep thinking. It's the first thing that comes to mind, and that's the truth of that moment. Okay, so how are they feeling? Are they scared? Do they feel unheard? Do they feel rejected? Do they feel like nobody ever listens to them? Nobody cares for them? Nobody loves me? Whatever comes, okay, just stay with it. Now place your hand over your heart and say, as you're looking at it, the younger version, I see you. Your feelings are valid. I'm here for you. And with that, breathe with this presence for a few moments, right? Just as you're breathing, imagine you're breathing with this younger version of yourself, okay? And synchronize the heartbeat. And feel your inner child being acknowledged. Stay there, stay in this moment for a few more seconds. And then slowly, 3, 2, 1, come back to the here and now. And now again, take your notebook, take your pen without thinking much. Just answer and journal on these questions. The first one, what emotions have been triggered recently that might be coming from my inner child? What emotions have been triggered recently that might be coming from my inner child? Okay. Second, what unmet needs does my inner child have right now? Of course, take your time and answer these questions. Take 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, however much time you need to answer these questions. But don't put your thinking mind to use, okay? Just whatever is coming. And the third question is, how can I respond gently instead of reacting? How can I respond gently instead of reacting? Yeah. So take your time with all the three questions and just journal and don't use your mind too much. Okay. Not too much. Don't use your mind. Whatever comes to you is the right answer. Okay. There's no right or wrong. But that's be in the flow, is what I mean to say. And then I want you to know that just recognizing your inner child's signals is key to beginning true healing. Okay. Because remember, just by noticing those patterns in you and recognizing what your inner child is trying to say, that in itself is healing. You are already healing. You are already in the process of healing. Okay. So this concludes today's inner child healing session, where we recognize the signs of communication with our inner child and do journal and do this practice that we did again, just to get into the flow. Okay. And I will see you on day 3. Signing off, Anisha. That's from Zarya Healings.